حلقة خاصة وحصرية من برنامج يلا ضمن تغطيتنا للذكرى الثالثة لاتفاقيات السلام الإبراهيمية التاريخية بين إسرائيل والإمارات العربية المتحدة والمغرب والبحرين برعاية أمريكية. وبهي الحلقة الخاصة حيكون معنا ضيف مميز جدا، وهو السفير الإسرائيلي للولايات المتحدة مايكل هيرتسوغ، واللي بيحمل معه خبرة وباع طويلين في بناء أواصر السلام، حيث أنه شارك في مباحثات السلام العربية الإسرائيلية ولعب دور هام فيها منذ عام 1993. ويأتي السفير مايكل هيرتسوغ من عائلة سياسية كبيرة في تاريخ إسرائيل الحديث، حيث أن والده حيم هيرتسوغ كان هو سادس رئيس لإسرائيل، وشقيقه الأصغر إسحاق هيرتسوغ هو رئيس دولة إسرائيل الحالي. خليكم معنا لتتابعوا هي الحلقة الخاصة جدا من برنامجنا يلا. Ambassador Herzog, أهلا وسهلا.
أهلا وسهلا بك.
Let's start with your personal background. You hold a very important position as Israel's ambassador to the US, but that's just the beginning of the story. You come from a political dynasty. Your family is one of the most influential families in Israel's recent history. Tell our audience about your family.
It's a pleasure to be here. As for my family, we're not a dynasty, but I come from a family whose members devoted themselves to public service. That's how we were all educated. We could have gone to the public sector or to the academia, but many of us chose to go to the public service to serve our country and to serve our people. My grandfather was a famous religious rabbi. He was the first chief rabbi of the State of Israel when it was established. My late father was Israel's sixth president. My uncles were in public service. One of them was an iconic foreign minister in Israel, Abba Iban. And my brother is currently Israel's 11th president. So for me, it's a privilege to be part of that family. And I'm informed by a sense of duty every day when I go to my office here in DC.
We are now starting off the celebration for the third anniversary of the Abraham Accords, the amazing and historic agreements. They included a lot of growing relationships between Israel and its partners on many levels: diplomatic, academic, financial. Trade between Israel and its partners now are in the billions of dollars and much more. How has Israel's relationship with its neighbors evolved in the last 3 years?
I think it's an amazing success story. I mean, if you look back and see where we were a few years ago, nobody would have imagined. But now we have a new model of peace, unlike the traditional peace agreements we've had with Egypt and Jordan, which are hugely important, but they were called peace between governments. Here we talk about warm peace between peoples. It's not only government to government, it's people to people. And what we've seen over the last 3 years is quite breathtaking. Let's take the United Arab Emirates. The volume of our trade with them within 2 years exceeded $2.5 billion. Wow. We've had hundreds of thousands of Israelis visit our new peace partners, notwithstanding COVID. We have numerous agreements signed between us. We have a free trade agreement with the UAE and about to sign one with Bahrain. We have great people-to-people relations with Morocco and the rest of them. This really is historic, as you said. It's groundbreaking, but I think it has an impact on the region as a whole because, for example, if you look at Egypt, our relations have warmed since signing the Abraham Accords. I think everybody looks at it. They realize it is important. They realize it could benefit the region, and they wanted a stake in that as well.
Your Saudi counterpart here in Washington, Her Royal Highness Rima bint Bandar Al Saud, recently said, and I quote, "We want to see a thriving Israel. We want to see a thriving Palestine. Saudi Vision 2030 talks about a unified, integrated, thriving Middle East." And she continues to talk about a thriving Red Sea economy. So how close are we to see a deal? And how would a peace agreement with Saudi Arabia impact the entire region?
First, I welcome the remarks of Princess Rima. They were well noted in my country and I think across the region. We would love to have peace and normalization with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a very important country in the region and in the Muslim world as a custodian of the holy shrines, and it's a big, important country. And we believe that if we normalize with Saudi Arabia, this will help stabilize the Middle East. Other countries might follow. It will be a game changer, a historic breakthrough, no less important than the Abraham Accords. We're just in the beginning of exploring this possibility. We are working very closely with the US administration. Ultimately, it's kind of a three-party deal where the US gives Saudi Arabia certain things, they normalize with us, but it ties everything together. We are in the initial phases of exploring that possibility. So we're still not there. There's a way to go, as President Biden noted recently. But I think the trajectory is a positive one. And even before breaking to normalization and peace with Saudi Arabia, things are already happening. There are Israeli overflights. Saudi Arabia agreed to direct flights for the Hajj from Israel to Saudi Arabia, and we're working to operationalize that. We have Israelis going to Saudi Arabia in international tournaments, in UN fora, in international conferences, and so on. Things are moving, and I'm hopeful that we'll move further and ultimately break through to peace and normalization.
Israel is the startup nation, and now it's also the scale-up nation. Israel technology benefits people around the world, whether it's GPS, desert-friendly water irrigation, or medical devices like PhilCam. We even did a story about an Israeli company that just created a replacement for sugar with sound waves. How can a greater engagement with Israel on a government, business, academic, or simply people-to-people benefit every individual in the Middle East today?
I'm confident that Israel has a lot to contribute to the region through cooperation, peace, and normalization, both government to government, people to people. And there are so many examples, but let me focus on several areas. The challenges that we are facing today, climate change, pandemic, food security, energy security. We have a war in Ukraine that impacts our region in terms of the ability to get food and energy and all that. All of these areas require cross-border cooperation. No one can go it alone. Even as strong as we are, we can't fight it alone. And climate change knows no borders, pandemic knows no borders, and we have to cooperate, and we can contribute a lot. Israel is a world leader in water technology, in desalination, in purification, in drip irrigation, and so on. We can help our neighbors in many ways. We have hundreds of startups focused on climate change. As I said, it requires cooperation, cross-border cooperation. We can fight together to prevent the next pandemic, and we have solutions that can help the region in terms of food security.
Now I'm going to talk about something that is less pleasant, but it's also very important, which is the Iranian regime, which continues to cause havoc throughout the region. It is a threat to Israel, it's a threat to Israel's Arab neighbors, and it's a threat to the Iranian people. Soon, we will actually be 1 year from the time where the so-called Iranian morality police murdered the 22-year-old Iranian woman named Mahsa Amini, which started the women life freedom protests. How does the threat of the Iranian regime impact the Abraham Accords, in your opinion, and the message of the people of Israel to the people of Iran?
I agree. The Iranian regime is the number one threat to Israel's national security, but also the number one threat to the stability of our region, given their extreme ideology, nuclear ambitions, regional hegemonic ambitions, and the drive to build the tools to realize these ambitions. And if you look at the region, wherever the Iranian regime asserted its influence, that place kind of died. Mm-hmm. Look at Iraq, look at Lebanon, look at Iran itself, what's happening in Iran itself. I, for one, believe that the Iranian regime essentially lost the people. And without going into too many details, I think there is a lot of activities behind the scenes to enable the Iranian people to better connect with the outside world and to better connect between themselves. I think that's critical, and many of us are working on that.
I wanted to talk about the historical speech by Israel's President Heirtsough, who's also your younger brother, at the US Congress. What was his main message, in your opinion, and how did you feel watching him?
It was very exciting to watch him speak. He addressed the two houses of Congress. It was a very strong show of bipartisan support for our relations, and it was a very powerful speech and was exciting for me, both as Israel's representative here, but also as a brother. I think essentially the message was that above and beyond any differences that we may have with the United States of America, our relations are ironclad. They are based on shared values and shared interests, on special affinity between our peoples, on the fact that it's a two-way relation. I think from where I sit, I see very unique relations, and that was his essential message, that we have no better friend than the United States of America. I think they have no better friend than the State of Israel. When the United States is strong, it helps us, and when we are strong, it makes America more secure, as Secretary Blinken said recently.